This is NASCAR Coast to Coast. 60 minutes of NASCAR local and regional racing talk, interviews, and opinions. Here's Kyle, Rickey, and Buddy Long.
Hill beats out Mother Nature and one of the largest fields of the season to win in Richmond. The NASCAR Canadian Tire Series will crown their champion this weekend. And we're down to the final week for the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series. And there's a chance of a new national champion. There's also a chance of a repeat champion. Welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast for Tuesday, September
15th.
Thank you, 15th, 2015. Kyle, Rickey, Buddy Long with you here for the next hour, talking a lot of NASCAR short track racing, a lot of racetracks beginning to button things up for the season, a lot of big shows, and the end of some touring series coming up later this week.
And one of the best Whelen All-American Series battles we have seen, I guess, ever since you and I have been covering it in the last 3 years. It's usually come down to maybe a couple of drivers, maybe towards the end of the year. I mean, there's been a good 5 to half dozen drivers that have tried to stay in the mix as best they can. The clock is now ticking for a few, and I think a few of them fell off the ledge this past weekend. Yeah. And we're whittling it down, but for the final week of the season, it's pretty darn good.
We're going to have some help today, too, in trying to figure this out. Because Jason Chrisley from NASCAR, the senior manager for NASCAR Touring Series, will be here to explain how this process works, the process behind it, and how, I mean, look, we got a list of 500 drivers here across the country. How do they keep track of every racetrack and every driver and just kind of the formula, the format for this year in crowning this champion, because it seems like every couple of years it gets tweaked.
Yeah, it does, and that's just one division. I mean, we've got several. I mean, NASCAR incorporated several different tiers of Whelen All-American Series champions, different levels of it, and we had the opportunity, I guess, back in December to kind of view some of that. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, it's a painstaking effort, I've got to believe, when you look at how many drivers, how many tracks, at least 59 to 60 NASCAR Whelen All-American short tracks that you have to cover. So it's a lot of work each week.
And we're going to talk to him about that coming up in a little bit as we prepare for the final weekend of racing for the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series national standings. Now, a lot of racetracks, their finales are still, 2-3 weeks away. A lot of them are this weekend to coincide with the end of the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series season. But there are a few tracks that have big shows after this weekend that we'll talk about.
Yeah, they do. I mean, we've crowned champions of lacrosse. Steve Carlson picked up a champion. They've had their big Oktoberfest weekend. I think Rockford just this past weekend crowned their champion. They have a big 50th anniversary special coming up. Looks like the beginning of October, right, that first weekend. There's a lot of good things happening. Kalamazoo, they wrapped up their title a couple of weeks ago. They have what they call the Super Shoe Nationals. Mm-hmm. That'll come up the first weekend in October. So
Fall
even
final
though
at Stafford?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Even though the point season's going to be coming to a conclusion, we're going to be on through probably mid-November. So even though the points are wrapping up for a lot of racetracks, we have a lot of big special shows to talk about.
Yeah, a lot going to happen here over the course of the next couple of months here at NASCAR Coast to Coast. A lot of short track racing continuing right up until the middle of November. Lee Pulliam, by the way, the championship points leader as of last week. The updated numbers have not come out as of airtime. He had a whopping 10-point lead over Thomas Tillison Jr. 14 points back was Jimmy Zacharias, and Taylor Holdaway was 19 points back. He's in fourth. Taylor will also join us on the show today, picking up a championship earlier this week.
And, it's kind of a bittersweet deal. We've talked about that with different drivers, and Taylor falls into the category. It's so great that he's been able to do what he's done with just one racetrack at his disposal. But then the downside of it is, well, that's it. My season's done.
Right.
Yeah, we have a big Velocity 250 race coming up in a couple of weekends. The points are over with. I can't do any more. I've got to let I've got to let fate pretty much, deal the cards to me. But nonetheless, I mean, he's got a great finish coming in the Whelen All-American standings. A phenomenal season for this youngster.
And we'll learn more about Taylor coming up in a little bit, along with Sunset Speedway, his weekly short track up in Canada. The NASCAR K&N Pro Series East, they were in action almost a week ago now, last Thursday night, Richmond International Raceway in Virginia. Great field, 35 cars strong. A lot of names returning to the series or competing for the very first time. Patrick Staropoli back in the series. Grayson Raz was in the series from the West. Ryan Preece, last year's modified or the current modified championship leader, former modified champion, was in the field. Austin Hill, though, beat out Mother Nature when she came, and he was out front when the caution flew.
And this could be a little scary as they go to Dover here in a few weekends, because this particular time of year is where Austin began what was a 4-race win streak that obviously carried over into the beginning of this year. But he won at Greenville Pickens, the second to last race last year, then went to Dover, scored the victory, then picked up 2 wins this season. So he's in a very good position right now. But William Byron through it all. I mean, even when he's gone to tracks that he doesn't have as much experience in, he has still been able to manage pretty good top 10 runs. He hasn't done bad. He's kept himself in the hunt, I would say, to maintain a decent lead. I mean, it's still, very, very slim in the early teens or whatever the case may be. But, he hasn't lost much if somebody gained on him from week to week.
13 points back is Scott Heckert behind his teammate William Byron. Austin Hill third in points, 37 back, so that might be.
You're doing math.
Yeah, I'm trying to do math here, but we'll talk to Austin coming up here in a little bit, as he will have a shot at the championship at Dover next 2 weeks from now.
It's first weekend in October.
Yeah.
I think we're in Vegas, and we're going to miss it.
That's a bummer,
isn't it?
But there is news coming up in the coming weeks about that race, so stay tuned.
Absolutely.
Part of the Motor Racing Network.
And we'll get a chance to see the replay of Richmond coming up actually tomorrow, September 16th at 7 p.m. on NBCSN. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, and I got to see, and I wanted to talk to Austin about that today. Did you see the VIR replay?
I did.
Oh, my gosh.
I did.
It wasn't a wreck fest, but nobody could stay on the course.
Yeah.
It's like, who wants to win this race or who doesn't? But it was pretty cool to watch it. I mean, the second you thought, okay, well, one goes off course, somebody else grabs the lead.
Well,
next thing you know, the next turn, he goes off course. Next turn, the next one goes off course. So it was kind of comical to watch it, but it still was a really good race. And I'm glad they have a couple of road courses on their schedule.
Absolutely.
I mean, it just really helps further develop these drivers as they climb up the ladder.
Last thing I want to touch on before the break, when I announced at Connecticut Short Tracks, and maybe you're the same way back years ago when you announced at Short Tracks, I wish we had Twitter.
Yeah.
Heck, I wish we had text messaging back then, but we didn't. But I wish we had Twitter because I got online yesterday and went on the old Twitter machine, and there's Keith Rocco and Doug Coby. Man, it's entertaining.
It is, and I'm sitting there trying to wonder what the deal is between these two drivers, or whether it's just an innocent fun. But if you read between the lines, it makes you sit there and say, what's going on between these two? Is there really some bad blood, or are they just having some innocent chiding with each other?
It started with Keith, and at Doug, Lucky TC didn't run the NEMA race Saturday night because Doug Coby won the midget race at the Waterford Speed Bowl on Saturday night before the Sunday Open Modified show that a lot of the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour drivers competed in. Doug fired back. Where'd you disappear to on lap 35 of the Open Tour race? He was running second at the time. You know this wasn't an SK race, right? Hashtag SKs for life. So then Doug also comes back later and says, I know it was lap 35. You were running second to Ted. Figured the race was over. Story of your season. Hashtag pack it in.
That's a shot across the bow.
And then Keith comes back. I didn't want you to burn up all your talent passing me, so I pulled in, but I see you didn't have enough talent to pass the king, meaning Ted Christopher. And if you're watching the video of this show, you see the tweets up on the screen. The final shot, I'm sure it's not done, from Keith Rocco at Doug Coby. But you did have plenty of talent to sit and wait for a yellow. Hashtag Doug Who.
That hurt.
So fun to watch. I love Twitter, mainly because of stuff like that. And there we have a lot of outspoken drivers that can get on the computer and say fun things and get people talking.
Well, it kind of reminds me, and back when I guess was doing short track races, you had what was a forum.
Yeah, we had those.
Websites of racetracks developed forums, but they got they got out of hand.
Yeah.
And a lot of racetracks had to do away with it because it was wives of drivers, getting trashy on there about, well, I saw you were looking at my husband in the pits. And, it's like, all right, come on. Let's break away from this. So it's good that, that kind of went away, but social media is entertaining every once in a while.
Has added a whole different element to what we do anyway here on the media side of things. When we come back, we're going to talk to the winner of the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East race this past Thursday night at Richmond, Austin Hill. See if he's on Twitter as well when we get him on here. He'll join us here in a moment.
NASCAR Coast to Coast will be right back on MRN.com.
If your wiper blades are worn and streaking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and save $6 instantly on a pair of Trico Sentry wiper blades. Improve visibility and save money with Trico Sentry wiper blades. Plus, you'll earn double O Rewards points on this purchase. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Waking up to smells of burnt rubber, smoldering campfire, and barbecue sauce. I was there, cheering on the drivers you love and booing the ones you don't, while watching them battle the baddest track in NASCAR. You can bet I was there. Escape reality for a weekend at Talladega.
The chase for the Sprint Cup returns October 23rd through 25th. Call 1-877-GO-TO-DEGA for tickets. This is more than a race. This is Talladega.
Hey, this is NASCAR Whalen Modified Tour driver Timmy Salamito, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
All right, thank you very much, Timmy. Of course, the Modifieds back in action just over a week from now at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway for their, well, I guess it's not next to last, third to last event of the 2015 season as they inch ever so closer to the World Series of Speedway Racing at Thompson Speedway to wrap up their season next month. Also on the show today, speaking of wrapping up their season, the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series will wrap up this weekend.
Will we?
At Kawartha Speedway, and Jason Hathaway will join us here in a little bit to talk about that. But on the guest line now, the Hathaway. I said Jason Hathaway.
Austin Hill
is going to join us here on the guest line. Austin, welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast. Please get us back on track. Congratulations.
Hey, guys. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I love coming on the show with you guys, and it was good to get a win. You know, we were middle of the season. We've been kind of struggling a little bit with some bad luck and stuff like that, and we just been a little off. And to come home with a win at Richmond was really good for us, and a good boost going into Dover and trying to get that championship and getting a win there again.
But, you know, even though you say you had some bad luck in the middle part of the season, you stayed well within striking distance. I mean, William Byron racked up a string of victories. He's been very consistent, as Kyle and I mentioned at the top of the broadcast. Even when he was at a track that he wasn't that familiar with, he still managed decent finishes where nobody could really gain much in the points. But for you guys, even though you say you had a little string of bad luck in the middle of the season, you were very much in point contention at Dover here in a couple of weekends.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I mean, like I said, I feel like if we wouldn't have had basically the trouble that we had at Iowa both times we went there, if we wouldn't have had those troubles and ended up having a left rear flat when we were running fourth with only a little bit to go, I really think that the points would be dead even. You know, I mean, I think that we would be right on top of each other. But, you know, you can't go back and change anything that happened in the past. You just got to look forward to the future. And you know, we're really excited going to Dover. It's a track that we feel like we're really good at, and I feel like, you know, I'm very comfortable with that track. The team, you know, the package that we go with, that we've went with both years has been just spot on. It's been a really good car, and you know, I'm really excited about going there. And I'm actually surprised we were able to get the win at Richmond. We unloaded, and we were terrible. I mean, we were 28th on the board in first practice, and you know, I just could not get the car to work like I wanted it to. We were so tight rolling to the center. I mean, I couldn't get it on the yellow line or anything. I mean, it was pretty bad, and you know, my guys, they did a heck of a job just working at it. You know, second practice we got the car a little bit better, still wasn't where we wanted it, and we changed a lot from practice into qualifying, and I really didn't know what I had going into the race. We just kind of were throwing the 8-ball at it, and just, you know, we didn't know what we had. And at the drop of the green, you know, I was able to keep up with the 9, and then on that restart, I was able to clear them on the outside. And it seemed like clean air was really big for us. Whenever I was behind Byron for those first 20 laps or so, the car was not handling very well. It was felt like it just had a lot of that dirty air, and I was trying to move around the track a little bit, but it wasn't really working. So once I took the lead, it seemed like the car really came to life. It started cutting the center pretty good. I started losing some rear grip probably lap 50 or so. So I was really hoping on the rain coming. That's really why we wanted to be aggressive at the beginning of the race and try to get the lead. And it all worked out for us in the end. And I can't thank my guys enough for that.
You mentioned the rain. The name of the race on paper, the UNOH 100, actually turned out to be the UNOH 70. How closely, I know that a lot of these Sprint Cup teams and Xfinity teams that we cover week in and week out have radars and all that in their pit box, and they're watching the Doppler radars. How closely were you guys watching the rain during the course of the first 70 laps?
Yeah, our game plan going into the race was just to be on kill mode. I mean, we wanted to get the lead. We wanted to lead the most laps. We wanted to be out front just in case the rain came. And I had a couple of my guys. They were looking on their phones and stuff like that, just looking at the radar on their phones and stuff. And the spotter actually came over the radio 5 to 10 laps before the caution actually came out and the race actually ended, and said, "Hey, I'm starting to get some raindrops up here. Keep doing what you're doing. Don't let up." So I kept running it hard, and sure enough, it started raining a little bit in 3 and 4, and we stayed green for another 3 or 4 laps. And the last lap before the caution came out, I came out of the radio. I said, "Hey, it's starting to rain really bad in 3 and 4. We need to tell somebody," because I honestly felt like I was about to lose the car, because the last lap before the caution, I kind of split up the track a little bit because the rain started coming down really heavy. So, like I said, we were really banking on the rain. We started burning our tires up a little bit, probably around lap 40, lap 50, and I don't know if we would have went to lap 100. I don't know if we would have won the race or not. I felt like we had a pretty good car, but like I said, we started burning the rear tires off of it a little bit too much, and luckily enough, the rain came when it did.
Dylan Bassett came in second. Dalton Sargent, Scott Heckert, Spencer Davis, the top 5 of the weekend. William Byron had a 6th-place run. We've mentioned he has been pretty consistent. If he's not in victory lane, he finds a way to get up in that top 10. As a result, you are 14 points back in 3rd position, as Kyle mentioned earlier in the show today. But this was a time of year last year where you hit a very good hot streak, even though it encompasses 2 seasons, the tail end of last year and into this year with a 4-race win streak. You guys have the upper hand to a degree going to Dover. How focused are you in a couple of weekends, knowing that you guys have had a victory there, you're very successful? How hard is it to stay businesslike and just stay totally focused, knowing this is our race? If we can win this, we've been able to do it before, and focus on winning that championship?
Yeah, our focus going into Dover is lead all the laps and win the race. I mean, it's easier said than done for sure, but that's the plan. That's the game plan we have. We're going to be on attack mode from when we unload the car until the end of the race. I mean, from practice to qualifying to everything, we're just going to be on attack mode, and we're wanting to get out front, lead all the laps, and lead the most laps, get max points, and whatever happens to the 9. Happens. We're really working hard at it. This weekend, we took a little time off, but Monday morning came around and we were back in the shop working hard at it. We have 2 weeks until the race, so we're coming with all our bullets in the chamber for sure. We're just gonna work hard at it and see what happens. We're just going to give it our best shot.
How important do you think experience is there? Scott Heckert, not a whole lot of experience at Dover. William Byron's never been there. You have, and you've won there. How much do you think that'll play into your hand in a couple of weeks from now?
Yeah, the first time we went there, we were able to get the win, but it seemed like the second race that we won, we were a lot more dominant than the first race. And the first time I went out, since I was a rookie and I've never been there, there was a few tricks that I learned from that race to take into the second race. And that's why we were that much better that second race. And I really think that I'll be able to take what I learned in both of those races and put it towards this third race at Dover. And I really think it's going to play to our advantage. But, the H. Scott cars, they're fast week in and week out. They're fast every time they unload. And so I know that Byron's probably going to be pretty good there. They got a really good car every time they unload the car. And but we just got to be that much better than him, and hopefully he has a little bad luck and we have some luck on our side.
It's tight there at the front of the field, just 14 points out of the championship lead, heading to the season finale at the Monster Mile in a couple of weeks from now. Austin, thanks for joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Congratulations again on the win in Richmond, and hopefully we'll be talking to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Hopefully after Dover you'll be talking to us again.
All right, well, we hope that's the case. Austin Hill joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. One of those family single-car teams, works out of a single-bay shop and doing well and competing and beating some of these mega teams like the H. Scott Motorsports and the Rev Racings.
Yeah, he mentioned them, and H. Scott had a good weekend. They finished in third and fourth with Dalton Sargent and Scott Heckard, but Dylan Bassett, an independent, came home second. And really a call to Spencer Davis, even though the NTS team is very good in the K&N Series. Spencer hasn't been in that car very often, done a good job in the modifieds this year, but to have a good top five run there, that's a good job. That's a good top five this past weekend.
Absolutely. Well mixed for the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East this past weekend at the Richmond International Raceway. When we come back, we're going to go north of the border and talk to the newest NASCAR Whelen All-American Series track champion and looking maybe for a national championship. He's been in the hunt the last couple of months. We're talking about Taylor Holdaway. He joins us after the break.
Coming back with more of NASCAR Coast to Coast, it's Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long right after this.
Dale Jr. here. I wear Wrangler Advanced Comfort jeans for any occasion. With new styles and great fits, you'll look good and feel comfortable anytime, anywhere.
Wrangler Advanced Comfort jeans are built with a U-shaped construction, so they give you more room where you need it. And their four-way flex technology moves with you for all-day comfort.
In the garage or out and about, Wrangler knows the ins and outs of comfort. Wrangler, real comfortable jeans.
Race fans, you know there's nothing like the power, excitement, and sounds of NASCAR. Ever wonder what it would be like to strap yourself in the seat of an authentic NASCAR race car? You can do it at the Richard Petty Driving Experience. Ride along or drive yourself at one of 15 tracks nationwide. Call 1-800-237-3889 or visit online at drivepetty.com. Richard Petty Driving Experience. It's authentic NASCAR entertainment. Call 1-800-237-3889 or visit drivepetty.com to reserve your experience.
This is NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour driver Doug Copey, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
All right, thank you very much, Doug. Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on MRN.com and the Motor Racing Network. Buddy Long, Kyle Rickey with you as we talk NASCAR short track racing every Tuesday afternoon. Joining us now for the very first time, a driver that picked up his first championship at Sunset Speedway in Ontario, Canada this past weekend, driving his late model stock and very much a part of the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series National Championship fight. Taylor Holdaway joins us on the guest line. Taylor, first off, welcome to the show and congratulations on picking up the championship in win number 12 this past weekend?
Yeah, I mean, thank you guys for having me. It's an honor for sure. It's been one of those years. Every driver kind of dreams of having a year like we've had. Sunset's first year of being a NASCAR sanction, and it's an honor to be the first champion at Sunset under the NASCAR banner.
Yeah, and what a great season it's been, I guess, going all the way back to December after we had our awards presentations. We had all the series directors on, and I think, I'm not sure if Sunset was set, no pun intended, at that point, but I know at some point, stop, Craig, there was an addition to the schedule or a change, and it became Sunset Speedway. But, there was one thing, because all we were thinking and focused on was NASCAR Canadian Tire Series, had absolutely no idea what we were going to see with what you've done out there. And it's been a terrific season. I mean, not just for the Canadian Tire Series, but for the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series, a great shot of the arm.
Yeah, I mean, Barrie Speedway did have the NASCAR banner there, and unfortunately they closed down there a couple of weeks before race season started. So I know Sunset kind of took over the banner right before the season started, so they kind of had their schedule set and everything, and they weren't ready to be a NASCAR track, so I know they had to change a whole bunch of stuff around. So to kind of a huge kudos to the track for throwing together a schedule like they did and making it what they did, and I mean, it was an awesome year.
Made the best of it, no doubt, getting full fields every week, which allowed you to get, maximum points, 12 nights for this national championship. But I want to talk about the start of the season for a moment, because I understand it didn't start the way that you or your entire team had hoped.
Yeah, no, we kind of thought we had a lot of high hopes going into the year. I mean, we're just a family-run organization out of our family business here in Aurelia, and we put our work in and do our maintenance, and we had some terrible maintenance, bad fuel to start the year, and it took us out of contention while we were leading in the first feature, and we weren't able to start our second feature running double features every night. So I did think that we were out of it before it even began, but after that, we kind of went on a really good tear there and never finished outside the top 5 the rest of the year.
And it wasn't an easy road to hoe because if you look at the Whelen All-American standings, it's not just yourself, but also fellow rookie driver Jason Whitty, who also had a very good season. He's in the top 10 in the Whelen All-American Series standings as well. So Kyle mentioned you're getting great fields, you're getting maximum points or as best you can, but you guys really made a tremendous mark in the first season for Sunset Speedway, and I always think that's so incredible. I don't think we can talk about it enough where a driver only has the option of one racetrack when you look at so many other drivers that you're going up against indirectly that can run at a choice of 3 to a half dozen racetracks. They have their choice to possibly run 3 in a weekend, and you're just getting that one, and you're right up there in the thick of the battle.
Yeah, I mean, definitely once we kind of moved into the top 3 there in the national points, at the start of the year being just one track, you didn't really think you would be able to be up that high in the national standings. But once we kind of got close and really got to watch, and you saw Lee Pulliam, I think he's ran 10 races in the last 2 weekends. Huge congrats to him. I mean, they're on their game, and he's one of the best in the business. But just to see on the internet, for them to be able to go to so many racetracks, I think he raced in 4 different states last weekend, and we're just there on one track, so we just kind of wait for next Saturday and go out and have fun. But to do what we've done with what we're handed and what we're able to go to, I think it's a huge accomplishment.
You mentioned you have a small team. There's a lot of late model teams out there that you would think they were Canadian Tire teams or K&N East Series teams. Kind of, how small is your team? How many cars do you have? How many employees or family members work on the cars during the week for you guys?
I mean, we have 2 cars. I have myself and then my crew chief, Scott Wiley, who's won some stuff in Pennsylvania. He was going to be my crew chief this year full time, and we had a backup car sitting there. So we made a deal that if he wanted to come up and race the car, he'd be there to kind of help us with our on-track adjustments. Then my dad and I do the maintenance on the car, and then I've got 3 very dedicated crew guys. I mean, I can't thank them enough. Chris Maddox, I know they're listening, so I got to give them a shout out here.
There you go.
Chris Maddox, Brandon Johnson, and Craig Pearsall. I mean, they've been huge to our program. They're there every Saturday. They're there when the pits open, and they don't leave until we clear tech, so I can't thank them enough.
Over the course of the last few years, obviously the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series has been a huge series that we love to follow. We enjoy watching them very much. The only face-to-face opportunity we have is when we go to Bowmanville to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. But during all that time, whether it's talking to Andrew Ranger or Scott Steckley, Jason Hathaway, we always talk about the health of the program. And every year it seems like there's an influx of more rookies. This year, Gary Clute, Marc-Antoine Cameron, they have been very accomplished rookies on the series. With the addition of Sunset Speedway, and even if Sunset hadn't come about, is there a plan for you guys? Do you have that hope to possibly climb up into the Canadian Tire Series, or are you guys pretty satisfied with where you are as far as your racing career is concerned?
I mean, we're definitely doing with what we can work with what we have. I mean, I definitely, you always want to go up the next step of the ladder, but obviously with that it becomes marketing partners and opportunities. I mean, personally, I kind of like the late model racing down south a lot more, Snowball Derby, the Rattler, Bubble Polar, and all. Augie Grill and all the guys, that's what we like to keep our focus on and paying attention to, and who knows, I mean, that would definitely be the avenue I'd like to go.
Maybe seeing them run for that national championship next year again, but in tracks down here in the States, you never know. Your season far from done up there. Big event left, Sunset Speedway. Tell us a little bit about the Velocity 250 coming up in 2 weeks from now, September 26th and 27th.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely taken over as one of the biggest races in Ontario short track racing. We have 2 big ones left, the Velocity and then the Autumn Colors Classic up at Peterborough. 2 high-profile races, long-distance races. We're done with the points now, so the stress is all over. We can just go out and have some fun and try to collect 2 more trophies.
Now, is the comparison of late models pretty good between what you run in Canada and what you were talking about with what Bubba Pollard, Augie Groh run when they run here in the Southeast? And if that be the case, are you looking later on this year to possibly get down to Five Flags and do the Snowball Derby or go to Alabama to run the Rattler race?
Our cars they're quite a bit different. I mean, we're a little bit scaled back with what we run. But I know some people that there is a new series, the APC Pro Late Model Tour, that's in Ontario that do run the straight rail cars, more similar to what's been racing down south. So, I mean, there's definitely some opportunities to head down there. We're just working on a couple things here to see what we can work with and see if we might not be able to go run I don't think the Snowball, but maybe the Snowflake.
In a few minutes, we're going to have the mathematician on for the NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series.
Because we know it's not us.
No, it's not. Jason Chrisley will join us from NASCAR. But I guess one of our last questions to you is, have you seen an updated points, the updated points from last weekend? The latest sheet we have is going into last weekend. Have you seen any of the latest numbers here just in the last couple of hours?
Nah, I know Jay's the man. He's the man at what he does there with the points. I try to be like him and keep as much up to it as I can.
It's hard.
I know what we had to do to try to get a podium, and that was get a max point win on our last night, knowing it was our last race, when all the other drivers still have another week of racing to go. We were able to accomplish that, so I think that should put me into third. I'm just going to hope that it can hang through and I can be the first Canadian in history to finish on the podium.
I think you have a very good shot at it. I mean, when this season started, and obviously late last year you didn't know about Sunset Speedway yet, number one, it becomes a NASCAR-sanctioned short track. Number two, you're running there. You had got off to a bad start a little bit, but then you gained momentum and got on the winning track. Did you ever think at that point in the year, early in the season, with all those things that you had the opportunity to be a part of, that you would be sitting here in late September in a chance, or I guess a possible opportunity to be on the podium for the Wheel and All-American Championship?
To be 100% honest, there's no. I mean, our goal at the start of this year was to win the track championship and to win the provincial NASCAR championship, which we were able to do. I had no thought in my mind about even being in the top 10 in the national points. I mean, the guys down south, they have their programs top-notch. They get to race so many times. I mean, when they take only your top 18 races, they're fortunate enough to be able to run 45, 50 races to get their top 18, and we were only able to run 22 this year, so with that one DNF. So it's a testament to how consistent we've been all year and how strong of a year we've really had to be even in the talk with only 22 races. So hopefully next year they can change their schedule a little bit to give us some more shows and hopefully give us a little bit better of a chance to run for a national championship.
So a track championship, provincial championship, and a possible podium in the National Series. Guess who we're probably going to talk to in December?
I certainly hope so.
Down in Charlotte, yeah, at the banquet. So, Taylor, I want to thank you for joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Congratulations on all of your success, all 12 wins, and the track championship. And we'll be keeping an eye on the numbers as the next week unfolds here and see where you stack up when we go to the banquets in 2 months from now.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Taylor Holdaway, the Sunset Speedway champion this year up in Ontario, Canada, fourth in the national standings going into last weekend. But you look at the numbers, and he mentioned them, 22 starts for him this year. You look at Pulliam, he had 44 going into last weekend. You can add, another 3 to that? Because he picked up 3 wins last weekend.
Well, he had 4 races. He had twins at Motor Mile and twins at Southern National.
So 48 starts there. Yeah. Tillison had 2 more, so he's up to 28. Jimmy Zacharias had 1 more, so he's up to 28. Rocco, 43, 44, 40, 46, if you include the 2 races at Waterford and Stafford. So about half is all the opportunity that Taylor has had compared to the other guys in the top 5, and he's made the best of them.
Yeah, it shows the margin of error is so slim, and the sense of urgency is great. It's greater than it's ever been for any driver, and I certainly hope they can get more races next year. But it's what a great accomplishment for he and Jason Whitty to do so well. Not just one driver, 2 that have done exceptionally well, where they're in the top 10 in the Wheel and All-American Series points with 1 racetrack and a limited number of events.
Absolutely. So we'll hopefully talk with Taylor again here before the season is over, and or his season's about over, but by the time our season is over in December. When we come back, we're going to stay up in Canada and preview the championship race for the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series this coming weekend at Kawartha Speedway. And he's also the most recent winner. Jason Hathaway joins us after the break.
NASCAR Coast to Coast will be right back on MRN.com.
Play to win $1 million this week and every week this football season at DraftKings.com. With 1 week fantasy at DraftKings, you can play when you want with the team you want. Just pick your contest, pick your team, and pick up your winnings. This isn't fantasy as usual. This is DraftKings. Welcome to the big time. Hurry to DraftKings.com now and use promo code COAST to play for free for a shot at $1 million in this week's Millionaire Maker event. Enter COAST for free entry now only at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com.
Victory Junction was young race driver Adam Petty's dream. He worked toward building a camp where children with serious medical conditions could concentrate on fun and not their illness or disease. When he died tragically, his family and friends around NASCAR made sure that dream came true. Today, Victory Junction is a camp that provides fun, life-changing experiences to children dealing with illnesses and disabilities, all at no cost to the camper. Help us serve more children by visiting victoryjunction.org.
This is NASCAR K&N Pro Series driver Cameron Haley, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MotorRacingNetwork.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
Thank you very much, Cameron. Kind of fits into this part of the show. Canada native.
It's had a great second half of the Truck Series season, too.
Running very, very successful in the K&N Series and the Canadian,
Twucks. The Twucks. Oh, the Trucks. I'm sorry. I got to get the W out of there.
The tough Twucks of NASCAR. Jason Hathaway joins us now up in Canada, obviously running for a championship this weekend. Man, what a tight battle it is. Top three separated by 9 points. We wouldn't expect anything else from the Canadian Tire Series.
It's too far apart. Come on.
9 points?
Yeah,
three of them?
It's got to be three. Got to be three down to the wire. Come on.
Well, they have, 250 laps to tighten it up this weekend at Kawartha Speedway. Jason joins us now. First off, we haven't talked to you since your last win, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, a couple of weeks ago, the Clareton 200. Buddy and I were there. It was a great race. It was fun watching you out on the racetrack. So congratulations. A lot of momentum heading into this season finale.
Hey, guys. How you doing? Yeah, it was a great event for sure. At Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, we're kind of the underdogs going in there as a in trying to get ourselves in the point battle, which we've been in all year. But to pull off a win there in front of the biggest crowd that we race against was pretty special.
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy event because if you left early, and I'm sure the Canadian fans do not leave early from any sporting event, but if somebody happened to, they never would have known you won because there were so many other drivers that had opportunities. Between, I guess, Alex Tagliani and Jeff Lapsovich, they were up there. LP Dumoulin had a chance at one opportunity. Scott Steckley was up in there. And towards the end, just the way things worked out, kind of take us through the event and see or to let us know, did the Red Sea part for you a little bit, little by little, as you got towards the end?
It's kind of, truthfully, it's kind of my style. I kind of just hang out and ride for the first little while and get into stick with our strategy and our gas and fuel and tires. We had a strategy that we were going after, and we were just trying to get out of there with a solid top 5 finish and get ourselves at a long shot at the points going into Kawartha and get back to the oval racing. So our road racing program, we're usually, maybe 5th, 6th, 7th, somewhere in there like that with some of the talent in that series and in our series in road racing. And you never know what will happen if you put yourself in a position at the end and you got a decent car and we did. When I got the lead off of turn 2 and into turn 3 in front of LP and Jeff Lapsovich, I was, thinking to myself, okay, well, let's see if we can't hold these guys off and go from there and see what happens. But, we ended up getting, I think we had about a 4-car length lead, taking the white flag. So we kind of gave up a little bit in the last few corners, making sure we don't make any mistakes and bring the win home and, have a real good shot at the points championship now instead of a long shot.
With only 11 races, the 11th being this weekend, when do you start looking at the points? Is it lap 1 of race 1? Because there is very little room for error with only 11 races, and you start the season with 2 bad races. It's tough, if not impossible, to come from behind.
Yeah, it is. It's, for us personally, our race team this year, we weren't even going to run the whole season, so points weren't even on our radar. So for us, we didn't care. We were running the first 4 races, and we were going to enjoy our summer doing something else. But we ended up leading the points heading out west in July, and we ended up, not sort of points racing, but kind of keeping a close eye on what's going on in our competitors. And
I remember a few years ago, Scott Steckley, he wrecked in the first race 2 years in a row, and still ended up winning the championship. He had a great run on the ovals out west again, like he did this year, and made up some points and maximized what he had to do, and ended up winning the points there. I think he won over Kennington by like 2 points or something. So you can have one bad finish, I think, in our series in 11 races and still be able to pull it off. But we've been fortunate this year to finish all the road courses, and they've bit us the last few years by not having DNFs on the road courses, and that's our maximum car count too. So it kind of kills you on that side of it. But it was a great win for us. People are still talking about it, and for me personally, to win a road course is kind of special.
Ninth in the series, actually, I should say second in the series points, 9 points back of Scott Steckley. A very familiar position for you. Andrew Ranger also tied for you in the battle for the championship as you guys head to Kawartha Speedway this upcoming weekend. Last year qualified 12th, but came back through the field for a fine third-place run. Take us through Kawartha Speedway and your thoughts this weekend. I know Scott Steckley also had a very good run there last year. But that was last year. Anything can happen and change in the course of a weekend, but your thoughts on this weekend's action at Kawartha?
Yeah, it's going to be a good event. I mean, you've got, between Scott and Andrew Ranger, you've got 5 championships there in the series, so they've been down this road before, and I'm going in just to play kind of the spoiler if I can, and if we get out of there and we win the race and get out of there and lose the championship, well, it is what it is. So we've got a lot of friends and family coming up, and some new sponsors, and some people that are helping us out. So it's going to be pretty cool and pretty good to be a part of it. So Kawartha's a really good racetrack. It's the 3/8 mile, nice and smooth, lots of room for racing, and it's always I believe it's been the finishing race for the championship, I think, every year since the series started. So, they know how to put on a big race for a big weekend and close out a championship year. So it'll be good.
You won there back in 2008. I'm not sure. I'm sure a lot has changed, not only with the racetrack, but with these race cars since I believe it was your first win in the series as well back in 2008.
Yes, it was. Car-wise, they've been changed a little bit, but in our series, it usually shakes out the top, like any other series, the top guys, top competitors will get down and have a battle at the end of the race, and that's usually how Kawartha goes. There's usually a caution with 10 to go or 15 or 20 to go and tighten up the field, and it's always a good battle, and it seems to be, like you guys mentioned earlier, it always seems to be down to a couple points separating our championship battle. So it's going to be another barn burner for sure, and just can't wait to get out there and get at it and find out who's going to win this thing.
Yeah, indeed it will be. We've talked to you, Scott, Andrew, so many drivers on the Canadian Tire Series about not only the health of the program, but over the course of the last few years, is there a good feeder system that you guys have in Canada? And we found out that you guys pretty much have a very good one right in Toronto and 40 minutes north of there at Sunset Speedway as they became a member of the Wheel and All-American program this season. We're a Canadian Tire Series track, but not sure if you've had the opportunity to follow the exploits of Taylor Holdaway and Jason Whitty, two of the drivers in the up-and-coming ranks that have done very well and are in the top 10 in the Wheel and All-American Series points. Says a lot about the future of racing in Canada.
Yeah, actually, I know both those guys very well. I usually go up and run before our NASCAR season starts. I usually go to Sunset and run a few late model races with those guys and just shake the rust off of me personally so I know those guys very well. I know the competition, the cars, and then the track. And if you want to have a good late model race and try to beat some of the best guys in Canada late models, you go to Sunset Speedway. So I've been there. I think I've raced 4 times I ran there this spring, and I've had a second, a third, a fifth, and a seventh. I haven't been able to win one yet. So the talent that's there with the guys, and a great group of guys to race against too. They're exceptional, and there's always younger guys coming in, which is great especially for our series coming in.
Yeah, sounds like the series is alive and well for the president and the future for the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series. Jason, thanks again for joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Congratulations on that win a couple of weeks ago at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and best of luck to you this weekend. We'll be watching that event from Kawartha Speedway.
Okay, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Jason Hathaway looking for the championship this weekend. 9 points, top 3.
Who you going to pick?
Oh.
I'm not picking.
No, I'm not either. But it's going to be it'll be fun to watch.
It's going to be a Canadian. I think it's going to be a Canadian that wins it. I think so. I'm going to go with the safety pick.
The race will be on TSN. They don't get ESPN there. We found that out.
We have everything else over here. How come we can't get TSN?
Well, maybe we can talk to the guy that we're about to talk to next
All right.
about that.
Question 1.
Jason Chrisley, the senior manager for NASCAR Touring Series, will talk us through the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series championship standings and the different scenarios that need to take place this weekend to see who might be the champion this coming weekend. Will it be a new champion? Will it be a veteran champion? We'll find out here in a couple of minutes as we talk to Jason Chrisley after the break.
Coming back with more of NASCAR Coast to Coast, it's Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long right after this.
It's O'Rewards Member Appreciation Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Stop in today and check out store-wide savings, plus earn double points on over 150 items. It's our way of saying thank you. If you're not already a member, sign up today during O'Rewards Member Appreciation Month. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Dale Jr. here. I wear Wrangler Advanced Comfort Jeans for any occasion. With new styles and great fits, you'll look good and feel comfortable anytime, anywhere.
Wrangler Advanced Comfort Jeans are built with a U-shaped construction, so they give you more room where you need it. And their 4-way flex technology moves with you for all-day comfort.
In the garage or out and about, Wrangler knows the ins and outs of comfort. Wrangler, real comfortable jeans.
This is NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour driver Ron Silk, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
You know, we joke about TSN in Canada, but we were up there a couple of weeks ago wanting to watch the Road America race, and we're like, yeah, it's on NBCSN. Like,
had to go across the street.
We don't get that channel.
Well, not in the hotel, we didn't, but we just had to go
they
over
get
to
TSN.
Nearby pub to watch the race. So yeah, I guess.
So all the big stuff is on TSN.
Mm-hmm.
We need to watch that.
We do.
We need to get that. All right. Let's turn our attention back now to the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series and even some touring stuff because Jason Chrisley is involved in it all. He joins us now on the guest line, Senior Manager for NASCAR Touring Series Communication. Jason, welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast, your first visit with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Busy weekend coming up. In fact, it's been a busy couple of months for the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series, and it's been really fun to watch all of these new drivers and these new names get in the mix with a lot of familiar names that we're used to with the Pulliams and the Roccos. And what's your take on the Whelen All-American Series season thus far as we head into the final week?
It's been a blast. I think you hit on a little bit, a lot of the new names. One of the great things to see, and there's still some time for the top 5, top 10, top 20 to be shaken up a little bit, is just the cross-section of drivers we've seen across North America. Looking at the top 5, you got your drivers from North Carolina and Virginia. You got your drivers from Connecticut, from upstate New York, from Ontario, from Oklahoma. We got one from Minnesota in the top 10. We got Pennsylvania in the top 10. So it's nice to see, tracks from every part of the United States and Canada represented up there in the top of the rankings.
And one of the many things I think we've enjoyed this year is seeing Thomas Tillotson Jr. as another driver that came up in there, Flint Creek Speedway, signed on as one of the newest Whelen All-American Series tracks. He partners himself with Selena as his 2 tracks that he goes to over the weekend. But I know of the vast majority of your tracks are asphalt, but it's pretty cool to see in that top 10 some dirt track representation with what Tillotson's done with Craig Von Doren and so many others. And for a lot of these drivers, the other part of that is, and what we've talked about so many times, this may be their only track. They only have one track to run at, and yet they're still way up there in the top 10 in the series standings.
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously we saw what Taylor Holdaway was able to do winning at Sunset, another track that just joined the Whelen All-American Series program this year. But, I will say you brought up Tillotson. That's really kind of an ideal situation and an ideal scenario, and something that we look at, as we add tracks that if there's an opportunity like a Flint Creek where, drivers can go run both tracks on a Friday night and a Saturday night. We have it up with Devil's Bowl and Airborne. You have it to some degree with Kern County and Irwindale. obviously we have it in Connecticut with Waterford, New London, Stafford, and Thompson. So, being able to have drivers have a couple different opportunities to run on a given week, whether they want to run exclusively on a Friday and hit a couple shows on Saturday, or the other way around. We also had it out in Colorado where we added I-25. So we're enabled drivers like Bruce Yackey to go run Colorado National like he normally did, and also run I-25. And it's really great when we see 2-3 tracks work on the schedules together, work on the rules packages together. Even if it's slightly different, it's enough that you can have drivers run at multiple venues. I think it really benefits the fans. It benefits the drivers who want to go above and beyond just that 15, 18 race schedule that they run on whether it's a Saturday night or Friday night. They can supplement that with not a huge additional cost. Obviously there's the travel, and sometimes they have to tinker with the cars. But for your driver that wants to take that next step up and not go all the way up to a touring series, you have a lot of venues that you can go to. And obviously we see that to a larger degree in the Southeast with South Boston and Motor Mile and Southern National and Caraway all kind of working together and not running on not running on each other's dates, and really kind of a cooperative strategy that's really benefited, I think, everybody.
One of the big questions that has come up in meetings here at MRN is the process in tallying the numbers every week. We talk about Division 1, but there's a Division 2, a Division 3, a Division 4, and a Division 5, and you can look at the top 100 in 2 through 5 and the top 500 in Division 1. How is that all tabulated by, Tuesday afternoon?
Computer.
Okay, thank God for technology.
Obviously all the tracks send in their results on a given weekend, and we have a whole entire points and membership department that ingests all of those results, and it prints out a report on Tuesday that has our Division 1, and it takes a little bit longer to get the 2, 3, 4, and 5 because there are a number of other divisions, and they have those ready by Thursday afternoon.
It seems like the last 6 weeks, though, has almost been Christmas every week for not only us here at Coast to Coast, but yourself. I got to imagine that as you get to this point and within the last 2 or 3 weeks, you were so anxious to open up a website, see where did Lee win or did Lee win? Keith Rocco, Thomas Tillotson, who did what, where, and when, just to see where the points are going to shake up. It's a fun time of year.
Yeah, absolutely, it is, and I say Twitter has really changed the entire dynamic. I remember when I first started, Brian Harris and Philip Morris were contending for the championship, and they, came down to 2 points apart at the end of the year. And I remember that process. Somebody in Philip Morris's camp made friends with somebody in Iowa, and Brian Harris had somebody calling them that night from the racetrack, and that was really the only way they were able to figure out, what the other guy did, and that was 2008. And not that far along, now we have the tracks and the drivers and fans who are updating on Twitter in real time, so that if you're in Oklahoma or you're Taylor Holdaway sitting up in Ontario, pretty much as he pulls into Victory Lane what Lee Pulliam did on Sunday in Kenly, North Carolina.
So I guess the big question is, I haven't seen a tweet from you yet today, so do you have the updated championship standings going into the final weekend yet?
I have the updated unofficial championship standings. We're still working on the full top 500, which is why you haven't seen the tweet yet.
Okay.
But certainly Lee Pulliam remains up on top. We got him with 702 points. Thomas Tillotson second with 681. Right now, Holdaway sitting in third at 676. Zacharias is in fourth at 670, and Keith Rocco at the moment is in fifth with 660.
I know this is a fun time of year for you guys, but there's also a lot of painstaking effort that goes into it. And obviously this is a good program. A lot of people are very excited with it, and this is always a continued work in progress. And I know without divulging things that are on the horizon, do you still see things or ways that you're looking at to even tweak this and make it even better? Or are you guys satisfied pretty much with where it sits right now?
I would not say never that we're ever going to change it, but I will say that it is in a really good place. car count wise, 18 is a pretty good number to reach for a maximum car count for a race, as well as the number of events for a driver to get in during the course of the season. So those are the kind of two cutoffs. The fact that we added bonus points last year if a driver starts 10th or back in a race was really well received and kind of added a little extra incentive, especially towards the end of the year as drivers are looking to, as you know, pick up any points that they can. Certainly with 3 drivers within 16 points of each other for that last podium spot, those are going to be definitely valuable going into the last weekend. So, those 3 components of the formula, I think everybody's pretty happy with. Like I said, the fact that drivers can go anywhere and compile those National Series points if it's a All-American Series track is another valuable addition to the program that we've had for the last 10 years. So I don't know how much more we would change it. As complicated as it is, we try to make it as simple as possible. There are a lot of different types of races, formats of races, lengths of races, so there's only so much you can do to even things out across the entire United States and Canada. But I feel like that we're in a really good place that makes it as equitable as possible for all the drivers competing for not just national championships, but state and provincial championships, and then all the way down to their track titles.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. The one announcement I liked last year was the announcement of the bonus points of starting deeper in the field, because it came up a couple of times in our show last year.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys time trial down in the South, where up north they run heat races and the features are started differently. Well, now there's an incentive to, if you're going to start in the back, there's an incentive to win that event out from starting 10th or deeper in the field. So it's been fun to watch. Jason, I wish we had more time, but unfortunately the top of the hour is closing in quick. Thank you for joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, and hopefully we can do this again soon. I'll be watching for your tweets this weekend.
Yeah, we'll tweet this later this afternoon, and looking forward to a big weekend. We got 23 tracks that are crowning their champions this weekend.
Wow.
So looking forward to a busy week.
Going to be fun to watch. Jason, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Jason Chrisley, the senior manager for NASCAR Communications in the Touring Series, and he was always that guy in the media center years ago at Waterford Speed Bowl. I don't think he's on anymore. He reminded me of that guy in the movie about the Red Sox, where they were at dinner and somebody next to him would talk about the Red Sox score, and he'd be like, blah, 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 blah. I would always be in the announcer's booth wanting to know about the Cup race going on, and he would close his ears, and I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So it was fun. We kind of grew up together in Connecticut, and it's good to see him where he is now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, fun times. This is going to be a great weekend for NASCAR short track racing.
A lot going on, no doubt. The Canadian Tire Series, and there are some other series in action this weekend. The Southern Modified Tour, they're back in action this weekend. They 3 races to go. They're at South Boston Speedway this Saturday.
And that's another track of the many that Jason talked about of the 23 that will have a championship decided between Matt Bowling and Lee Pulliam in the battle for the championship. I think the separation is 29, but they have twin 75s coming up. Pulliam did win the Motor Mile Championship over Bowling just a weekend ago. Part of his 3 victories, he won the twins at Southern National, and a tie got broken there between Andrew Grady and Jonathan Finley.
So we'll have a lot
You have to say who it was who won it.
I don't know who won
it. It was Finley. Okay.
What, the tie was broken?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I didn't see that. Also want to congratulate Ruben Ravello, NASCAR Mexico winner this past weekend. Took the lead on a late race restart over Rogelio Lopez to claim the win. So that'll do it for this edition of NASCAR Coast to Coast. Hard to believe the season is coming down to an end fairly quickly. Want to thank Austin Hill, Taylor Holdaway, Jason Hathaway, and Jason Chrisley for joining us. For Buddy Long and Craig Moore and Robbie Mays, I'm Kyle Rickey. We'll see you back here next week on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
You've been listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast. Tune in next Wednesday at 1 Eastern for more talk from local tracks all over America. NASCAR Coast to Coast is also available on demand in the MRN.com Media Center or download from iTunes or Stitcher. NASCAR Coast to Coast is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.